Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Numbers chapter 16. The title of this video is Moses' Meekness, or the Mutiny of Korah. There are 50 verses in this chapter, beginning in verse 2. Chosen counselors versus famous in the congregation. Verse 3, let it be enough for you that all the congregation are holy, and Yah is among them. And why do you set up yourselves against the congregation of Yah? Verses, is too much upon you. Seeing all the congregation are holy. And then it says, every one of them is holy. That's what it sounds like. And Yah is among them. Why then, or wherefore, which means why then lift you up or exalt yourselves above the congregation of Yah? So we can see a stark difference here, that the Septuagint is basically saying, is it not enough? Is it not enough? The congregation of Yah is holy. This is talking, who is talking? It is Korah. Those who rose up against Moses, the rebellion of Korah. And he's saying, is it not enough that the congregation of Yah is holy? They're set apart, and Yah is among them. Why do you, Moses and Aaron, set up yourselves against the congregation of Yah? So they're creating this divide when what they're accusing of Moses and Aaron of, what they're accusing is not true at all. Looking in the Masoretic, let's see how much this diverges again. All the congregation holy, so that seems to be the same. Every one of them, that's an addition. Doesn't say every one of them. And Yah among them. Okay, so far so good. Why do you lift up yourselves? So they're saying you're exalting yourselves. Moses, Aaron, you're lifting yourselves up. You're exalting yourselves above the congregation. That's not what they're doing. In the Septuagint, it doesn't say that either. It says they're setting themselves up. So they're saying that you're becoming like enemies. You're against them in whatever way. Verse 5, we see a huge difference. God has visited and known those that are his. This is Moses responding to Korah. God, or Elohim, has visited and known those that are his and who are set apart, holy, and has brought them to himself. And whom he has chosen for himself, he has brought to himself. So that sounds like what Yeshua said, that no one can come to me except the Father draw him out. It's really the Father who's drawing people and choosing them. On the other hand, what we read in the Masoretic says, even tomorrow, he's saying tomorrow specifically, tomorrow, Yah will show who are his and who is set apart, and will cause him to come near to him, even him who he has chosen. So it sounds like a bet, a dare, that, okay, we'll see what happens. Instead of Moses just saying, this is a fact, that whoever Yah has chosen, who he has visited and has set apart, he has brought them to himself. That's who Yah has selected. He's not saying that it's him or them. He's only saying this is that Yah knows who he chose. He's not implying that, tomorrow Yah will choose me and he will show you who you really are, kind of thing. That's not what he's saying. He's not exalting himself. Otherwise he would be exalting himself. He's just laying out the facts. He's laying out the facts. He's presenting the reality. Verse 7, it says here, let it be enough for you, you sons of Levi. So he does say in this verse, he's telling them what to do. And then he's saying, yes, tomorrow, this is what's going to happen. The man Yah has chosen will be set apart. Let it be enough for you. Let it satisfy you, you sons of Levi. Notice he calls them sons of Levi because Korah and his people are biologically sons of Levi. Versus what the Masoretic says, he's saying too much. You take too much upon you. He's saying you're doing too much, sons of Levi. He's not saying that. He's not implying that. He's only saying, as the Septuagint correctly says, let this be enough to satisfy you. He's not saying you have too much burden on yourself, that you're taking too much work on themselves. He's not saying that at all. Okay, verse 9. Stand before the tabernacle to minister for them. So he's saying, is it a little thing for you that the Elohim, the God of Israel, has separated you from the congregation of Israel and brought you near to himself to minister in the services of the tabernacle of Yah, and to stand before the tabernacle to minister for them on their behalf, versus to stand before the congregation to minister to them? No, it's not to them, it's for them. They're ministering on their behalf. Okay. Verse 10, only the sons of Aaron had the right to be priests, Aharon. And it says here, and he has brought you near, and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you. And do you seek to be priests also? So he's asking a rhetorical question, or maybe he's asking them a genuine question. Do you want to be the sons of Aaron? Because it's only his sons that have the right to be priests, and Korah and his people are not sons of Aaron. So that sounds like they're the ones who are trying to usurp and exalt themselves. They want to usurp authority. Verse 14, we see here the Septuagint is asking questions, possibly 7 questions, including, I'm not sure what including means, but here we go. Let's read verses 13 questions. Okay, the first part could be phrased, are you a prince? It could be phrased, are you a prince? He's asking, Moses is asking. Oh no, it's not Moses. Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, and they said, we will not go up. And it seems that they are the ones speaking here, talking to Moses. Are you a prince, and have brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey? Question mark. And have you given us an inheritance of land and vineyards? Question mark. Would you have put out the eyes of those men? Question mark. Again, these are questions being asked to Moses, and Moses was exceeding indignant. He was very angry and said to Yah, do you take no heed to their sacrifice? So in the Masoretic, I have to say here, the Masoretic, it says, the first part could be phrased again, are you a prince? And it actually says that at the end of the Masoretic. Do you make yourself a prince over us? But when you look at all these questions, let's just count them out, just to be fair. So these are the questions, the statements of Dathan and Abiram, sons of Aholiab. Is it a little thing you have brought us up to a land flowing with milk and honey? 1. To kill us in the wilderness. 2. That you rule over us. 3. Are you a prince? 4. And have brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey. And have you given us an inheritance of land and vineyards? That's 5. Would you want us to put out the eyes of those men? That's 6 questions, at least 6. And we look at the Masoretic. Is it a small thing? Okay, it looks like 2 questions. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land. Will you put out the eyes? So it looks like 3 questions on the Masoretic, but there's a lot more being asked in the Septuagint here. So the Masoretic phrases the first 2 statements in the negative. You have not brought us into a land. So that's the negative part there, whereas the Septuagint says, have you brought us into a land? So it's not negative. He's just asking a question of Moses. And then the second negative question they ask, is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land, except you make yourself altogether a prince over us? Okay, I'm not sure where the second negative is. It looks pretty similar to me. Except you make yourself altogether a prince over us. Moreover, you have not brought us to a land or given us inheritance of fields. So that could be the second negative question, because this statement, given us inheritance of fields, ties to the not, ties to that statement. Okay, let's move on from this verse. Verse 15. Do you take no heed to their sacrifice? This is Moses talking to Yah. Do you take no heed? It's not a question. He's saying, you do take no heed to their sacrifice. Versus respect not their offering. So it's similar, I have to admit. I have not taken away the desire of any one of them. I'm not sure what this means. I have to ask you. What do you think this means? I have not taken away. Maybe that's what they want, the desire of them. I have not taken away the things they've desired. Neither have I hurt any one of them. So in the Masoretic it says, I have not taken a donkey from them. So I don't think that's what it's saying, that Moses would take a donkey. He's saying, I have not taken away the things that they wanted to do, perhaps within the framework of the law that doesn't transgress Yah's law. Maybe they wanted some things and they're allowed to have it, and Moses let them have it. He didn't take away the desire. Neither has he hurt any one of them. So he did not cause any injury to them, and he did not also remove any of the blessings, perhaps, that they wanted to receive. So Moses is kind enough to warn them and advise them. He tells them, okay, this is what you need to do. Sanctify your company and be ready before Yah. Versus, show up tomorrow. It says here, show up tomorrow. It sounds more vengeful. Okay, where is it? Be you and all your company before Yah. So just show up tomorrow. That's what he's essentially saying. Show up. Whereas no, he's telling them, sanctify your company and be ready before Yah. He's telling them what they need to do. It sounds more vengeful in the Masoretic. He sounds more, a little more bitter and angry. Be you and all your company before Yah. So that's what he's saying. Show up. Verse 18, the Septuagint reads that Moses and Aharon are near to, they're by the doors of the tabernacle of witness. In the Masoretic, it says that everyone was there by the doors, but it's only in the Septuagint where it shows Moses and Aaron are the only ones standing by the doors of the tabernacle of witness at that moment in time, at least in this verse. Verse 19, Korah and his company, it says that they're by the door of the tabernacle of witness. So they're near as well, but they're on the opposite side. They're on the opposite side facing Moses and Aaron. It says, Korah raised up against them all his company by the door. So they're near the door, or either on the opposite end, facing Moses and Aaron. They're staring them down. It's a confrontation. It's a face-off. It's like a Western where you have a standoff. Okay, and yeah, so that's what it looks like there. You can just imagine what that would look like. Very tense situation. Verse 22, if one man has sinned, shall the wrath of Yah be upon the whole congregation. So this is what uh, Moses and Aaron had said. Oh, I'm sorry. This is what Yah is saying to Moses and Aaron. He's saying, separate yourselves from the middle of this congregation. I will consume them at once. And then Moses and Aaron respond and say, they say to God, to Elohim, uh, if one man has sinned, shall the wrath of Yah be upon the whole congregation? So he's saying, don't kill them just because of this one person, Korah. Verses, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with the whole congregation? Um, the thing is, we already know he's angry. He's already angry. Uh, but what they're implying here is that they will be killed. Will everyone die? These people, the whole congregation, will they all die because of this one man? Whereas the Masoretic is implying, you're going to be angry because of one man? Well, he's already angry. He's already angry. It's an important point. Verse 24, significant difference here. Speak to the congregation. This is Yah speaking. Depart from the company of Korah round about. So Yah shows mercy. He is angry, but he's not going to kill them all. He said, okay, in that case, speak to the congregation, saying, depart from the company of Korah round about. Versus get you up. Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah. Dathan and Abiram. So we can see the Septuagint clarifies it was also their tents included in the crowd, the gathering of Korah. Dathan and Abiram went forth and stood by the doors of their tents. So they were in fact included. So the Masoretic kind of jumps ahead and includes them. It's not wrong for them to include them, but it just doesn't say that in this verse. They were eventually included in the narrative. So they spoke to Dathan and Abiram, Moses and Aaron did, and all the elders of Israel went with him. He spoke to the congregation, saying, separate yourselves from the tents of these stubborn men, and don't touch anything that belongs to them, lest you be consumed with them in all their sin. Okay, so that's a warning. Save your lives. Separate yourselves from the tents of these, what? Stubborn men, and touch nothing that belongs to them, lest you be consumed. And then we have an omission, consumed with them. Consumed by what? By Yah's wrath and all their sin. Versus depart. Okay, where would they leave to? No, you separate yourselves. You're not leaving. You're separating yourself. I pray you. So they're not saying please, just saying just leave. I pray you from the tents of these wicked men. So they're not wicked, they're stubborn. According to the Septuagint, saying they are stubborn. And touch nothing of theirs. Okay, that's pretty similar. And then, lest you be consumed by their sins. Consumed in all their sins? Is that spiritually? It's hard to say. I mean, it does, to be honest, it doesn't really, it's not a big difference. At the end here, it says, lest you be consumed with them. Oh, actually, it is a big difference. The big difference is you will be consumed with them. So they're going to be snuffed out. They're going to be taken out in all their sins. But in the Masoretic, it's kind of cryptic. It's saying, lest you be consumed in their sins. So you're going to be consumed because you partake of their sins? No. You will be consumed with them because of their sin. In this matter. Okay, so that's a big difference. I had to read it a few times just to get that. Verse 27, it appears Korah had their tents within a close proximity of the tabernacle, and they stood aloof from the tent of Korah. Verses, so they got up from the tabernacle of Korah. And then their livestock, possibly, it says their store, their wives, their children, and their store, which could mean their livestock, that's a possibility, versus their little children, because sons and their little children, well, it includes them as their children, so that would be all-inclusive there. Verse 28, that these works, Moses said, hereby shall you know that Yah has sent me to perform all these works, that I have not done them of myself. To perform all these works. So these works are not of myself. They're not of Moses' strength. They're not of his mind. They're not because of anything he's done, like his skill. It's not something that comes from him. Verses, for not, in the Maz says, for not these works of mine own mind. So just mental. They're not just of his mind. I mean, these works, he's pretty much, the Septuagint is opening it up to, it's not just mental. It could be perceived as, these works could be perceived as physically strong, spiritually strong, socially, using his authority. But no, he's saying they're not of myself, period. Not just of my own mind. You can see this man, Moses, is very humble. He's not leaving anything up to interpretation to be taken that this is, I take credit for it. No, it's not his. Just like with this channel, I don't take credit for it. I'm just a guy reading some text. Anyone could do that, really. And looking at words side by side, does it take a lot of talent? It's not of myself. I know that. Verse 29, if they die of natural causes, okay, it says, if these men shall die according to the death of all men, which is, if they die of natural causes or of old age, that's how I understand this verse. And it says that in both, so it's not vastly different. It's pretty similar. Verse 30 says, but if Yah shall show by a wonder, verses, but if Yah make a new thing, so this is not a new thing. Now the reason why I say it's not a new thing is because the earth opened up before, historically. That was during the flood, in order to absorb the waters, for the waters to recede. So the earth has opened her mouth before and swallowed up, maybe not people, but definitely waters. So this is not a new thing. That's why it does say, Yah shall show by a wonder. That's what it's saying here. Verse 32, we see cattle versus goods. We see in verse 33 a continuous difference in this chapter, where they call something the grave. This is where Korah and his men were swallowed up, and everything that they had, including themselves, went down into the grave, versus the word the pit. It's continual difference. Again, 37, we see an omission of brazen. Talking about the censers, they were bronze or brazen. And the big difference is, out of the midst of the men that have been burnt, and scatter the strange fire yonder. So that was omitted as well. Men. So these men were also burnt. That there's no mention of that in the Masoretic. There's no mention of a strange fire. It's just a fire. No, it's a strange fire. They're breaking so many laws. For they have sanctified the censers, versus out of the burning. So we can see there's a lot of omissions going on here. And scatter you the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. Again, it's a strange fire, and the censers are hallowed. That's what they're talking about. These censers are sanctified. So the end of verse 37 and the beginning of verse 38 should not have been divided in the Masoretic. It says, the censers of these sinners against their own souls. For they have sanctified the censers. Okay, actually, you know what? It's more similar when you include this part. For they have hallowed the censers of these sinners against their own souls. So when you look at that, there's less difference. The only differences that remain are the men that have been burnt, which was omitted, and the strange fire. Everything else seems to line up, so that's good. I don't like seeing too many differences. It's not that I'm hunting for differences, but you have to point out the truth when you see it. So it reads, these 250 men separated the censers of these sinners, Korah, against their own souls. So by separating these censers, it cost them their lives. Meaning, it is possible to set apart something, to sanctify something, wrongfully. In the Masoretic, it makes no sense whatsoever, and it reads like an isolated thought or a statement, not fully understandable to what precedes it. And that's why they really need to include this. This period ruins, the translators inserting this period ruin the meaning of they are hallowed the censers of these sinners. So again, they separate these two thoughts, and they warp people's understanding by doing that. Again, it's very different because of this punctuation. So verse 38, we see the word beaten plates versus broad plates, and says, were they hallowed by the fire? Were they hallowed because they brought them wrongfully to Yah? I believe they were hallowed by the fire that came out of Yah, that came out from Yah. That's my opinion. It says, these sinners against their own souls to make them beaded plates, because they were brought before Yah and hallowed. So that's an interesting thought. You have to read that over just to get a sense of what I just said here, that the brazen censers that the men who had been burnt brought near, versus had offered. It's in verse 39. So Eleazar the son of Aaron, the priest, took the brazen censers, which the men who had been burnt brought near. So these men died. It seems to say the same thing here, but doesn't call them men. It says that that were burnt. This looks like it's talking about the censers, not actual human beings that were burnt alive, burnt to a crisp, or just completely disintegrated, or disintegrated is a good way to put it. Verses had offered. Verse 40, there's a lot being hidden there when it just says had offered. Verse 40, and as they that conspired with him, versus as his company. So the Septuagint is more factual. It's presenting reality, facts, and is condemning their actions, the actions of Korah and those who conspired with him. It doesn't cover up what they did. It explicitly says that they conspired. They rebelled. They rose up. They had done a mutiny. It was a mutiny. Okay? It doesn't just hide it and say his company. No, this is what they did. There's no giving them the benefit of the doubt and sugarcoating anything they did. No, not here, not in the word of Yah. Verse 41, how can they be responsible when the people witnessed the wonder and the earth opening up and the fire burning the men? Makes no sense. Possibly they accused them of being the ones who moved Yah to do it. So it says the children of Israel murmured the next day against Moses and Aaron, saying, you have killed the people of Yah. So again, how can Moses and Aaron be responsible when the people they witnessed this wonder, this miracle, the earth opening up and the fire burning the men. So it makes no sense for them to be accusing Moses and Aaron unless possibly they're accusing them of being the ones who moved Yah to do it. No, Yah cannot be forced to do something. He just does what he does. He does things righteously. Verse 42 is a big difference. It came to pass when the congregation combined against Moses and Aaron, they ran impetuously to the tabernacle of witness. So this is a mob. They're stampeding toward the tabernacle. This has to be controlled. And we can see the action was done. The cloud covered it, and the glory of Yah appeared. He intervened. They were probably going to kill Moses and Aaron. A mob, hanging them like a lynch mob. Versus the Masoretic, what does it say? They looked toward the tabernacle of congregation. So they only looked. No, they didn't look. They ran impetuously. They were taking action. They weren't just looking. I find that very disingenuous that they would just sugarcoat that. This is a clear example that this tabernacle does not belong to the congregation. It is not their tabernacle. It belongs to Yah. And that's why it's called the tabernacle of witness or witnesses, because it witnesses the artifacts. The witnesses are the artifacts that Yah preserved. He preserved them there to be a sign and a memorial among other functions such as sacrifices and the priestly duties. Verse 43. Why would Moses and Aaron have to go in front of the tabernacle if the people only looked at it? Doesn't make any sense. It says that in both. They went in front of the tabernacle. And this is why the Masoretic makes no logical sense from a narrative standpoint. It just doesn't. You can't. That's intellectually dishonest if you're going to say, oh, they just looked at it. No, there's more going on here, and that's why there's a big omission here. And then another omission in verse 44, it says that Yah spoke to Moses and Aaron. So he didn't just speak to Moses, he was speaking to both. Verse 46, it says, it has begun to destroy the people. So Moses had said to Aaron, take a censer, put it on a fire, put incense on it, carry it away, make atonement for them. For wrath is gone forth from the presence of Yah. It has begun to destroy the people. So they're already being destroyed. Versus the plague has begun, or is begun. And that is a consequence of the wrath of Yah. So it is specifying it as a plague, whereas here it's simply wrath. All right. So the Septuagint further clarifies in the next verses that yes, it indeed was a plague as a result of the wrath of Yah. So verse 48, we see a continuous difference. The plague ceased versus the plague was stayed. Okay. So it stopped. Some may think it stayed, meaning it did not disappear, but simply did not move. So it was stationary, it was stagnant. No, this is not the case. It stopped. It was ceased. It no longer was. This is an old English term, not to be understood in our modern vernacular as being stayed. Like, you tell a dog to stay, it's still there. No, when something is stayed, it means it has stopped, it has ceased. So that's why I explained that. This chapter was such a wild chapter, and we saw so many differences. I didn't think we would see that many, but we did. And this really is Korah's rebellion. It does speak of Moses' meekness, his humility, and what a remarkable man this was, and what a remarkable person to be able to meet one day. But this speaks of the rebellion of Korah, without a doubt. I'll call it the rebellion of Korah, or Korah's rebellion. So thank you very much for your time. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Appreciate all your support. This is the Mutiny of Korah, and Yah bless you and make your way prosperous. Till next time, you've been watching Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Shalom and peace be with you.